Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm starting a new series which is called The Chopping Block. This is sort of loosely inspired on a series that was started by Samantha March. She did a little segment on stuff that's almost ready to be thrown out or decluttered, but not quite yet, and why. And I sort of started thinking that if I wanted to do a video like that, there were a lot of products that I didn't really know enough about to know if I wanted to keep them around or not. So I started thinking that I should do a little segment that's called the chopping block, in which I try those products and then decide in the video or after a wear test or maybe after a couple of days, but I'll edit that down. Then I decide if I want to keep the product around or not, or if there's a certain way I want to use it, or a different season because the color is off or anything like that. And there can be multiple reasons why a product makes it to this list. For instance, today I'm doing a very controversial one because I'm doing the Catrice True Skin. I already wrote this off for some reason. I tried it once and it looked pretty bad and the color was off. So I just put it in the back of my drawer and didn't really look at it again. But then recently Tati started raving about it. So I figured maybe I didn't give it a proper chance. And I used a very weird primer with this one, which was also a little bit orange, so it could have been that. And I just never took the trouble to trying it again. So that's what we're doing today. I also have some older products of which I'm just not sure if they're still okay. Some products that I used in a certain way, but I think should be used in a different way. And you know, I'm trying to figure these products out, see what I really think about them, and then give them a proper place in my makeup life. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please consider subscribing. I try to upload 3 times a week with makeup related content. And let's get into the video. So we're going to start with the True Skin foundation. This is a hydrating foundation with hyaluronic acid, but it's supposed to have long wear and it's medium to high coverage with a comfortable feeling. So that all sounds pretty good. The shade I have is 004 Neutral Porcelain, and I believe this is the lightest shade they had in store here in the Netherlands, and I think it was a little bit dark for me, but that's okay. I can become a little bit deeper when summer really hits here, even though it hasn't yet. Not really, but it might. And then I will get a little bit more tan. So that's not a reason to throw this out exactly. I just believe there was nothing special about this. That's really my thoughts. So I'm just going to put this on my bare skin to give it a proper test. Pumping out 2 pumps, and I'm using my foundation brush. On camera it looks okay. It is a little bit too dark for me. The undertone is quite nice. The coverage is very nice as well. It is a little bit streaky on my forehead. And now that I'm seeing that, I'm remembering that from the first time as well. So I think it's properly blended out right now. And I'll come a little bit closer. Don't mind these little volcanoes on my skin. I recently got vaccinated and they started popping up right after. Okay, so the color was definitely off, but not as much as it appeared in the previous video. I think this could work with a little color adjusting drops, or if I'm just a little bit more tan, then this shade should be perfect. So, but I still don't think it looks that pretty. For some reason, on some parts of my face it looks extremely glowy, and then on other parts of my face it looks very dry. Like over here, it just looks kind of patchy, and it feels a little bit oily. I don't really love the way it feels. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. You know, I have a trouble with products with hyaluronic acid from time to time. They can really do strange things with my skin, can make it very dry or very dewy when my skin is actually quite normal. And I don't really love the way it sits on my forehead. I didn't use a lot of product, but it looks like I have. On camera it looks pretty okay, so yeah, I'm not convinced about this one. It's not that bad, but I'm going to keep it and I'm going to use it when I'm a little bit more tan. Maybe I'll like it a little more when the shade is more perfect. So I quickly did my concealer off camera because this is not on trial. This is the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. But what is on trial today is the other product I have from the Catrice True Skin line, which is their loose powder. So I remember in my Catrice video, I did a full face of Catrice. I had a couple of new products and they were all a little bit too dark for me. So I ended up looking very orange and very dark. So I discarded all 3 of them. Well, the Skin Perfector primer is going to be on trial in the next episode of this series. But I figured I could do the foundation and the powder. So this is also a powder with hyaluronic acid in it. But I don't think the finish of this powder was bad. I think it just darkened my concealer quite a bit. So I'm going to take this small Real Techniques brush. Make sure my concealer is nice and tapped out. And let's see what happens. I actually don't think it darkened it up too much. It just mattifies it a lot. So this is a very strong powder. I just used a little bit underneath my eye and it actually feels pretty powdery. It doesn't look bad, not at all. And I like to really set my concealer down very heavily. So that's actually perfect for me. I'm just warning you, this is not a light powder at all. But I have to say, not using that one primer, which makes me feel very anxious for the next episode, but not using that really makes quite the difference. I do see now over here, do you see it's a little bit more orange? That did just happen because I put the powder down. So you can see very clearly that it does darken it up a little bit. So I think this is an okay powder for me on days that I'm not doing a very heavy highlighting with my concealer. I actually do sometimes use a concealer that's the same color as my skin. And for those days, this will be perfect. It does mattify extremely quickly. Alright, so the powder gets to stay a little while as well. I didn't hate it, it has a very specific function. I think because it's a little bit too dark and it is a little bit heavy, this is a perfect extreme summer weather powder for me. Might use it just for that. The next product I wanted to use is this multicolored bronzer by Atos. Atos is a Dutch drugstore home brand and it's very affordable. But it's a little bit hit or miss. Sometimes they try things and sometimes I want to try those things and I really don't remember how it went, but I can't believe it went very well because this is almost like a highlighter for very dark skin. It's very metallic. It's very orange, red. I think it's actually a little bit dark for me. But I don't remember at all what I actually thought of this and I did use it at least once. So I want to try it again. I'm taking my usual brush, I'm just going in all 3 parts of the embossment. My first reaction is actually that this is quite pretty. It's not that metallic at all. And the color doesn't seem to be so dark. It is a little bit more red-orange. That's okay. It is a little bit like a highlighter, but since the powder that I used was so matte, I actually don't mind that. Distributes a nice amount of color. I actually quite like that. It's maybe a little bit too glowy. but for a sun-kissed look, that's actually perfect. I have to bronze up my neck a little bit to make the foundation match more. Looks a lot better like this. Yeah, I don't think this is bad. Kind of like it. I'm going to keep it in my collection and just use it a lot more. Alright, so the next product is from Kiko Milano. It's the Magical Holiday Blush and Highlighter Palette. I think this was from last holiday or the year before. I think it may have been 2019 actually. It doesn't say, but my first impression of these was that they didn't have enough payoff. So this is what they look like, the blush and the highlight. And I have to say, like this swatch, they look pretty nice. But I don't think they picked up on a brush very well. And I've actually been meaning to declutter this one, but then I figured maybe I didn't give it a proper chance. So let's see, I'm picking up the blush. Yeah, that's what I remember. You get a little bit of shine. And I'm really pressing my brush into the blush. It's like the bronzer where it's more of a highlight. I guess it's just a very glowy blush. You do see it. But I really had to dig in there. I tried a different red blush from Kiko Milano, which was in a stick form. And I really loved that one. So I think I'd rather just use that one. This is a little bit too much for me, the glow. It's really more like a highlighter. Just for good measure, I'm also going to use the highlighter. This I'm really rubbing my brush in very heavily, because this has hardly any payoff when I'm swatching it. And that's all I'm getting. It's actually less shiny than the blush. And it has these tiny little glitters in it, like I'm sweating a little bit. I never like those. So I will put it on the other cheek, but I already know what I'm going to do with this palette. I think I'm going to declutter it. I don't think I'll ever use it. I don't find it pretty or effective at all. And it's a little bit hard for me because I never declutter at all. It's just I'm getting a little bit more makeup now because I have this channel. And now I can be a little bit more selective with my older purchases. Because in the past I didn't really know what worked for me and what didn't. But you see, this hardly did anything. So I'm sorry, this is going to be the first real no in this video. So I did my brows off camera because, again, I had nothing on the chopping block for brows. But I do have something for the eyes. And I think I already know, but this is the Dior Show On Stage Liner, a waterproof liquid eyeliner in the shade pink. And wait, let me give it a good shake. I remember using the green one because I also have a green one. And it just didn't stick on my eye. But I did have a lot of eyeshadow on that day. And as you can see, it does apply a little bit on my hand. So I figured I'd give it a chance using no eyeshadow. I just have my concealer and powder on my lids. And I'm going to try to do a nice wing with this. Actually worked. It's not quite as bright of a pink as I was hoping, but it did work. I think maybe I just didn't shake it well the first time I used it. So that's the eye look. Very easy. I don't think it's very pretty. I don't think the shade of pink is pretty. It's a little bit grey, but it did work. So I am going to keep it. Use it a couple of times, maybe decide a little bit over time. But it's not a complete fail and I kind of expected it to be, so that's great. So I added a little bit of my Catrice Lift Up mascara, not on the chopping block at all. And now all that's needed is a lip. And I actually have a couple of these Anastasia at Beverly Hills lip stains. I already decluttered one because it was a horrible patchy mess. It was a sort of burnt orange reddish shade, which was supposed to be beautiful, but it didn't look very beautiful. But I also have this bright pink version, which is called Hot Pink. And I'm just not sure how this one worked, or if I even used it at all. So let's see. Looks nice and bright. Has this horrible bubblegum smell. So this is one layer. I'm actually impressed. This looks pretty nice. I really like it with the liner as well. The liner did transfer a little bit, but that's my fault for not waiting long enough to open my eyes. This lip stain is actually bomb. Alright, I think that was a very successful session. Although some of these things were not amazing, I actually really like the finished look. Especially now that I bronzed my neck a little bit, the shade doesn't seem to be too far off. And I think most of these products I can give a home in my collection to wear on specific occasions or specific times of the year, and that's fine, now I know. I just didn't know. So this was the chopping vlog. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.